so again, based in China. He's been working for ERAM for 12 years, quite some time. He was previously working with Carrefour Global Sourcing for 5 years, so he's got a lot of experience in global sourcing and procurement, both in China and across Asia. So today's session for BRICE is called Sourcing Digitalization Journey, focusing on one project, RAIZ project. He's going to talk more about this. So welcome, BRICE. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Max, for the introduction. Good morning to everyone. I'm very happy to spend this time with you guys and to share my experience in the digitalization process of our buying office and sourcing activities. So to get started, let me give you a bit of background and why we've been questioning actually what we're doing. I will not go through the history of the different FMCG, let's say, key models in the past decades, but obviously, let's say those objectives have changed from strategic sourcing to the early 2000s, where it was just about coming in Asia, buying from a low-cost manufacturing country and grasping this margin that importers were doing at the time. Moving into the category management, where it was more a wider view, how to optimize the sales per square meter. And now we are more and more concerned about value management, and which is, in my opinion, really about how much resource we use to provide the output that we are supposed to provide, what kind of source or service we are providing. And I think the key drivers that for those different phases in our industry in sourcing can be summarized here. The first one for sure is about speed. 10 years ago, I didn't hear too much about questions about speed, but now it's becoming a key differentiation driver for us, how to be able to accelerate our time to market, how we can actually retain the last minute to place an order so that we can seize the latest trends for a product, how we can actually manage better our working capital. So speed is a critical point. Sustainability also has been for me a very important one. I remember too many cases where we were playing an unfair competition where some companies were playing the sustainable game, which was to work with qualified suppliers and so on. Others were not as, let's say, focused on these traceability issues and could eventually tap some cheaper prices, but not necessarily comparing the same product or the same service, actually. And now I think what's really good is that sustainability is necessary for all players, and definitely that's kind of a standard that everybody has to follow. There is a risk factor also, for instance, let's say quality. I hope that within the past 10 years, if you cooperate with the same supplier, you don't have the same quality issues. Otherwise, it means that the learning curve was not really going into the right direction. And this, again, as the skill set has changed, whether it's about suppliers or third party, obviously, companies have to look for new insights or new value creation proposition. And of course, cost, my thought, and this is an introduction to my next point, is that there is a big difference between the cheapest price and the best price. In my opinion, we were looking before for the cheapest prices, and this is not possible anymore. What we're looking for is the best possible price given constraints of compliance, of logistics, of financial payments, etc., etc. And actually, my thought is that most of the players today, major ones, are actually already at pretty much the best price. It's fairly easy to find competitive suppliers today. So there's no big challenge about being the first into this new sourcing heaven. Bangladesh is already pretty much super mature. Eastern Africa, Western Africa also actually developed, and it's easily accessible now. You just need to have the right quantities for this. So it's not only about finding the new source. It's more than this today. And our sourcing activity is also a labor-intensive business. This is another statement I want to make. Basically, it's difficult to scale unless you just bring in new people and new additional resources. And this has been true for the past 20 years. Some solutions have been able to help us to become more efficient, and we've seen plenty. I will talk about it later. But basically, the model is still a bit the same. Knowing that 20 years ago it was, or 10 years ago, it was a fairly, I would say, cheap labor, I would say, in a way. But today it's not the case anymore. And definitely as this shift has occurred, of course the skill set have increased also, but definitely does it mean that the buying office has to change a bit in its way of thinking, in its view? This is at least what we were looking at, or what we were thinking. As a part of the sourcing organization also, I think what's pretty obvious is that the selling prices, and this is just coming back to my two first points, the selling prices are quite fixed, and it's difficult to increase the prices. I don't believe that this is possible in the competitive market in which we are. And as we said, we already, all of us buy at the very, or at pretty much the best price. So the value creation drivers are really in the middle. And quite often we're looking at value chains where the buying office cost was not necessarily considered as a driver for improvement. So this is where we were actually questioning ourselves to say, okay, what can we do on our side to become much more productive, to become much more efficient, and therefore to be able to unlock a little bit of additional value? And the answer we had was data. Data, obviously, we were seeing a lot of processes. We were seeing a lot of suppliers, products, the full process, testing. But what is it we're doing with this information we have? And are we trying to do something out of it which can create more value, which can bring more productivity? So, and we figured out that the main problem we had is that we didn't have the proper tool to analyze this. So this is where we started the story, which was to be able to look for our tool, for our software that could help us to basically manage our process, manage our flow, but also to be able to increase our data understanding, analysis, and to be able to keep creating value for our brands and for our customers. So we went into a regular process. Everybody follows, I guess, pretty much the same benchmark, sourcing and meeting different providers, organizing a tender. But what was most important were the conclusions we had. So we've seen some amazing solutions that were able to do just impressive things. But we could see that already there were some influences. Some solutions were more about logistics, others were more about the creative design, and so we could see that they had some different influences, and we wanted to have some kind of general solution. Second, we found out that in most cases we couldn't really find a solution that fit our needs without some adaptation, with some trick. And second, we had a very open mind or philosophy in the tool. We wanted something that was easily connectable to other softwares used by third parties, used by customers, eventually by new technology coming in. So we wanted something we could plug in a very easy way. And most of the products we've seen on the market could do this, not always in a very easy way, but mostly in a pretty expensive way. And this has been quite of a driver for us to go and find another solution, because it was a pain point for us. Cost, of course, that was an important pain point also. We've seen amazing, as I mentioned, solutions, but they are pretty expensive. And for the size of business that we have, we do about 30 million pieces per year. It was a very difficult investment that we could not afford, actually. And the overall point of the exercise was to be able to become more efficient on cost, so therefore not to make an overinvestment into IT tools to compensate for the operating expense. So the last 2 points we found was that those systems were actually quite not so much involved into looking at additional IoT inputs, and this was really a software, and we couldn't just have an environment where we could add some innovation, some evolution like machine learning or AI. So this is the context in which we were, and after a lot of discussion internally, we decided to find and to develop our own tool, which we called RAIZ. So to build RAIZ, of course, you need to start by having a team. You need to start by having skills which are able to build such a tool. And therefore, when you are buying office, you literally don't have usually any understanding or any experience about how you would build such a team. So it has been a lot of discussions with startup companies, with influencers, people from the industry, people from the IT industry also, to understand pretty much how this was working. And it has been a learning journey, I would say, step by step. So we identified three functions that we needed to have in-house. The first one was the coding function, which can be done in-house for part of it. And of course, in order to scale, you can do it, of course, you can use some freelance add-on. We had a very important one, which is the user success, which is on one hand doing the, let's say, the link with the operational teams about the needs of the tool. And once the tool has been developed, does the training to the operational teams about how we use the tool. We have from the very early stage worked with an engineer, which is a project manager, obviously, to work on this user success function. And this has proved to really facilitate the acceptability within the operational teams about the tool and to make sure it would fit the requirements. And this has been proven to be a very successful on our side. Of course, you also need to have someone which is specialized in security and data compliance, so more on the hardware side of this industry. And all those people have, of course, to be managed by someone that understands pretty much all those that can link all those projects together. And this is, in our case, our digital manager. So this was a totally new team in our side that we built 2.5 years ago. And together we decided to have a very simplistic approach, which is to say, let's go by different steps. Let's first of all create a backbone. I will go directly to this slide to illustrate my point. Let's go to, first of all, to create a very basic backbone, which is the blue part here, where you start with onboarding vendors, making your request for quotations, developing your products, monitoring your production, controlling your goods, and organizing the expedition, as well as evaluating performance. So we started on the first year to doing this simple function, which is what any software on the market is doing very well, and probably better than us at that time. But at least we had a base for development. The second stage of our development was what you see here in green, which is to connect this software to all stakeholders in our business, whether it is shipping companies, inspection companies, laboratories, factories, or vendors. And from their point, when we started doing this, we've seen already some productivity gains. We've seen some adherence to the project, and we've seen that we were unlocking some opportunities for more value creation. It was also pretty interesting to see the way that third parties understood or have been supporting to this project, because basically for them, by connecting our systems, it was also real savings for them in terms of workload. So it has actually been pretty supportive on their side also. And then as a third step, which is the red one here, we connected our system to our key customers. And this has been a major milestone because as I will further discuss later, it has been very well appreciated and for different points. We also started connecting our software with specialized one that we were using on a daily basis. For example, for quality control, we're using Pivot 88. And we connected to Pivot to be able also to minimize the double work, to optimize the data collection, and to be able to have better insights on our business. And basically what we're working on right now, especially the first two, which is 3D design, which is absolutely necessary in my opinion now for the apparel industry. So we are connecting to those tools to be able to facilitate the data integration. And we are starting working also on machine learning algorithms to help us in optimizing our operations and our insights. So I can give you an example. We are able to calculate now based on when we create a spec sheet of a product, how many defects we will have during inspection. So this algorithm is actually working pretty well. We have a 92% accuracy rate, which is not yet acceptable, but we are keeping working on it to be able to improve it. So those are the kind of insights we're trying to develop to be able to do a better job, to be able to anticipate eventually problems, to be able to reduce the resources investments, because we want to place resources really where we need. And we believe that with all those solutions, machine learning, AI, will be able to have a much thinner way of working and analysis level. And last but not least, we are also talking about robotics. And this is in the longer run, what we expect is to be able to link some objects to our software. And I just give you an example. I was discussing yesterday with one startup that is doing augmented reality glasses. We're trying to think about how our technicians, which are doing garment fitting and so on, could use this technology, again, to optimize their time, to facilitate communication with customers or eventually with headquarters. So those are areas where we're also searching to find where we can get good return on investments as far as innovation is concerned. So I guess this is the most important part of this sharing this morning is what have been the impact of in our organization of such a project. If I have to start by operations, what we've definitely seen is an improvement of our vendors KPI. The fact that, you know, we would say that you understand what you can measure is actually pretty true. And when they connect and on their vendor portal and they can see their KPIs for quality, for delay, for development times and so on, there's an insight, there's a motivation to be able to do better. And especially when you link this with business, so we have had a direct impact and positive impact on those performance indicators. Second, we've seen also a very interesting customer engagement. Because when we put our tools to theirs, they've seen definitely our willingness for transparency, a willingness for a bit in the category management mindset, which is to share the knowledge and the resources to be able to have a better shared outcome. I think that this is what we've proved by providing a link to our solution and providing full transparency within our operations and our data. Third, in terms of operation management, of course, we have been able to develop much better insights and to optimize our team organization, optimize our processes so that we can overall improve. This can be done with any Power BI or Tableau solution as long as your data set has been properly, let's say, mined. But again, this is, I think, one very important point for us as sourcing organizations to be able to improve our operations. As far as people are concerned, the fact that we have introduced this team within our buying office, the fact that we have everybody using the solution today, I see that more and more our teams are more and more data-centric. And this has been a factor for also facilitating communication with third parties, with our buyers, because obviously when you have everybody share the same data and you can have a proof by the numbers about what you're saying, there is no much discussion here. There is no I feel, I believe that is just a fact. And this has helped us to be much more efficient during meetings and so on. Second, we've seen a shift in motivation and culture. And my take here is that I think that the industry sourcing has not moved too much in the way we work for the last 15, 20 years, unless exceptions, of course, there are always some leaders here. But it was pretty traditional way of working. And the fact to bring such kind of solutions, such kind of innovation, the fact that we show that we innovate every 3 months, we have a new release, some new opportunities and so on, brings a drive in the company about, okay, I'm into a company that wants to innovate, that wants to move forward, and thus has a positive impact on the motivation also. And last but not least, there is a shift in the organization skills. Of course, you bring more tech people into the company, so you need to adapt. You need your HR department to understand, well, you know, how do you find those people? How do you contract those profiles? How do you motivate them also? And this is also a quick point I will make in the next slide. Finally, in terms of financials, so we've seen tremendous productivity gains on our side. It's been around 25% productivity gains in the past 2 years. So we were obviously growing at a pretty fast speed, so we were able to contract or to maintain our operating expense while we've been increasing our business. So this means overall per piece we shipped a significant operating expense saving. So this on the financial side has been very important. And also it has unlocked a new business opportunity because we are going to sell actually the solution that we have developed, and this opens up a new horizon for us as a business corporation. So, of course, there are a lot of very positive outcome from this project, and I'm very supportive and encouraging all of you to go the same way. It has been very thrilling, actually, experience for the past 2.5 years. Nevertheless, there are a few challenges. So, as far as we have to learn new skills, we also need to learn how to retain those talents. We are in a hot industry, whether you are based in China or elsewhere in Asia or Europe or in the US. And maybe it is very exciting for such a profile to work in a Google, to work in a Baidu. Maybe it is less to work in a sourcing office, making garments and shoes. So how do you motivate them? How do you provide them the work environment they appreciate? How do you reward them? I think is a critical point, because obviously as it's an internal tool, your capacity to lose your competent people is actually very narrow. Also, you need to learn some new hard skills, especially dealing with legal and compliance or data management. So this is an area where it's obviously pretty simple, but it's something that you need to explore also. And then I think maybe the most complicated part is the cultural fit. As I mentioned, you do the same environments, you have people which have very different backgrounds, education level, aspirations. So how do you make sure that they all fit together with the training programs, with the company activity programs? So those are points which might be a little bit game changers, on which it is necessary to spend a bit of time, and which might be a bit challenging at the beginning, but we learn fast. As far as financials are concerned, well, don't expect to have actually a quick return on investment. It's a long journey, but definitely, as I showed you, you are able to have significant productivity gains pretty quickly. The advantage of not buying off-the-shelf solution is that obviously it's not a big capital expenditure, that is for sure, but it depends on companies, and I guess here it's a topic that will depend from one company to another. For us, that was much more affordable or absorbable in the way we did it, and that is why it made sense for us at that time. I would like to spend a bit more time on the last point, which I guess is very important, is that when you decide to go for your own internal solution, there is a real challenge to convince your management to go for it. It's always a question, to do or to buy, and I guess that nowadays there is more trend to buy than to do. And for sure, even for me, it has been a pretty long journey to convince internally that this was the right way to go. But at the end of the day, I think what really pays off is what I just explained, the fact that it brings something else than just productivity gains. It brings also a positive impact on teams, on motivation. It brings a new vision also for your activity and new potential opportunities, business opportunities. So it's important not to neglect this communication part, this convincing part to management, but it's nevertheless very rewarding once it's done. Second, my advice would be that in big corporates, we have more than 6,000 employees within the group in headquarters in Europe. We have an amazing and a very large IT team, but I've since the beginning I've been willing to remain independent from the IT team so that we can work more as a startup rather than a major multinational IT project. Because if you work as a startup, you are much more lean, much more agile, you can take decisions faster. And I think that this has been one of the key success factors for us, that we were able to get a request, deliver it very quickly. If we did not have this kind of liberty of choices and decision making, I guess the outcome would have been much different. So again, I guess it's not a solution that fits every company, every organization. It depends on a lot of factors. In our group, we are, let's say, we like to say that we are entrepreneurs or intrapreneurs, and therefore I think that this suited pretty well into our group culture. I will spend just 1 minute to tell you a bit more about who we are. So ERAM Asia is the entity that I'm managing. We belong to ERAM Group, and ERAM is the leading apparel retailer for fashion, fast fashion and slow fashion items. We have 12 different brands mainly distributed in Europe for ladies, men and kids. And in Asia, we have 3 entities, which is Teamworld, which operates as the buying office for our 12 brands. We do about 30 million pieces, and we have 5 offices in Asia. Mixed Fashion is our training company, which obviously we cooperate with brands such as Aigle, Showroom Privé, Corte Inglés, Kappa, so in different sectors, but always in garments, footwear, and accessories. And as I mentioned, we also now have a new venture, which is RAIZ, which we will be soon opening as a SaaS opportunity for sourcing and buying organization. It has been a real pleasure talking to you guys and to sharing this experience. If you have any other questions, I'm very happy to keep answering your questions now. And I guess if you need to have any contact for one-on-one talk, you can go through Max and we will be able to get in touch. Thanks again. I wish you a great day today, a lot of insights, and speak to you soon.
Okay, thank you very much. That was very interesting, really cool insights on this presentation. I wanted to remind you again that you can ask questions at any time by using the comment sections at the bottom of the screen. I see that already some of you have asked questions, so keep going, ask your questions. Speakers are here to answer them live.